All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. With Cyjax in the UK, I get to say good evening on this one. So, welcome to Take a Hammer to Cybercrime, brought to you by Bandura and our great partner Cyjax. We're excited about today's webinar. Again, I'm Todd Weller. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Bandura Cyber, and today I'm pleased to have Ian Thornton-Trump, CISO of Cyjax. Welcome, Ian.
Thanks so much. Delighted to be here, Todd. It's been an amazing journey of getting a partnership going.
Yep, and excited about kind of where we're headed with that. So today, from an agenda perspective, we'll give you a quick intro to Bandura and our cyber intelligence marketplace. We're going to do a deep dive then on Cyjax, so we can learn more about Cyjax, who they are, their threat intel, how they generate it, what's unique about it. Then we'll dig into Q&A. For questions, you'll see a Q&A button down below at the bottom of Zoom. Feel free to throw your question in there, and we'll be sure to answer that. So from a Bandura perspective, we are all about making autonomous cyber intelligence and defense accessible to everyone, and we do it through one easy-to-deploy cloud-based solution. There's really three things we do really, really well. First, we make the world's leading cyber intelligence accessible to everyone in real time. Second, we simplify the deployment of that cyber intelligence with automation. And then third, we let you take action with it. We let you defend your network in real time in an automated way, which is arguably the most critical piece when it comes to threat intelligence. It's taking action, it's doing something with it. When you look at our platform, we've put together kind of a complete solution to automate the acquisition, deployment, and enforcement of cyber intelligence. Really two major components. There's the cloud-based component where we're aggregating and integrating cyber intelligence indicators, specifically IP and domain indicators. So all of the great out-of-the-box intelligence we provide, the over tens of millions of indicators from multiple sources, to integrations we have, to other ways to make it easy for our customers to pull data into the platform. So if you're a healthcare organization, you're a member of Cyjax, we make it easy for you to pull that data in, or just basic generic connectors, including a new bulk CSV one we just launched. But the key is we're providing leading cyber intelligence out of the box, but we're an open platform. We want you to use as much cyber intelligence as possible. Marketplace plays into that. Then from a cloud perspective, our customers will interface with our SaaS-based application, Global Management Center, to set very simple policies, enable lists. And then our cloud service sends the threat intelligence, cyber intelligence, as well as the policies down to our threat blockers, which sit on the network in line across on-prem, cloud, virtual networks, as well as a service offering. And threat blockers are inspecting network traffic, and they're making an allow or deny decision based on all of that cyber intelligence that is in the platform. And then we're logging everything we see and enabling our customers to export that out via our great syslog export capability, so you can take advantage of the great data we're seeing and correlate it with your other data that you're seeing from your other security controls in a SIEM or some other type of solution. So for us, third-party data is critical. We don't produce any of our own cyber intelligence at Bandura. We rely on companies like Cyjax that are specialists in doing this. And our view is, to combat today's threats, customers need to use a diverse mix of intelligence from multiple sources. And I think you'll hear some stuff from Ian, some data points that kind of reinforces that theme. So, you'll see us continue to partner with commercial providers. You'll see us continue to add open source intel, continue to expand our relationships with industry on the ISAC front. And then, we're also adding popular web applications for automated allowed lists. So it's one thing to block bad stuff, but you also have to be able to allow known good stuff. And then again, making it easy to bring data in, whether that's integrations with threat intelligence platforms, SIEMs, SOARs, and other type systems. Cyber Intelligence Marketplace, we launched several weeks ago. A lot of work and effort. We're extremely excited about it. It's marketplaces have become common. And so kind of the concept, I think everyone's familiar with, but it's a place that our customers can go and access via GMC to easily discover, evaluate, and acquire leading cyber intelligence data. Over time, you'll see Marketplace evolve to be kind of the place to go for all of your cyber intelligence. It's kind of curated, organized, and you'll be managing it from there. And then obviously, we're all about deploying that on the network. And so through Marketplace, you can instantly deploy this great intelligence real time on the network and start to take action with it to protect yourself. So with that, excited about our partnership with Cyjax. We're offering the Cyjax Threat Intelligence feed on Marketplace. It is a validated feed of contextualized IP and domain indicators of compromise, discovered by the great research team at Cyjax. And we're going to get into more detail now about who Cyjax is, what the data is, what it protects you from. And so now I'm pleased to introduce Ian Thornton-Trump. And Ian, tell us about Cyjax. Who's Cyjax, and tell us more about you all.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And Todd, I'll give you some context around my role at Cyjax. I'm the CISO. I get to kind of have those conversations with customers and talk around the issues that I see in the industry with regards to consuming cyber threat intelligence. I think a couple of your points are incredibly important. That is taking either tactical level or strategic level intelligence and operationalizing it, automating it, and actually making decisions with it. And that's the sign of a mature cyber threat program, is when you have all of the right pieces in place. And that's why I'm really excited about the partnership that we have. So a lot of people talk about, the number of feeds, and in a way, we've taken kind of an opposite approach in terms of discovering high fidelity information. So I would suggest that when you do get something from Cyjax, it's gone through a bunch of rigor that we'll talk about, shortly. We can go to next slide.
Awesome. And then how about the team at Cyjax?
Yeah, so we are a global company dealing with primarily enterprise customers that are asking us to do 2 or 3 different things for them. One, some customers we just supply a feed of nastiness to, and they take it from there. Other customers want us to go a little bit deeper into what's going on and give them context around what they're seeing in terms of live intelligence about some of the breaking news stories that we see all the time. And I've got a little bit of a story around that I'll share in a moment. I would say that because we operate in some very interesting verticals, we are seeing stuff that traditionally might not be exposed through some of the standard type of feeds that you see out there. We have a presence in the Middle East, and I'll tell you, the Middle East is the Wild West when it comes to adversarial activity, with most of the nation states maintaining an offensive cyber capability. In fact, a lot of the geopolitical realities that are in the Middle East and in Africa are played out in the cyber world in extreme circumstances. So we see Iranian threat actors, we see Saudi Arabian counter activity, we see all sorts of different threat actors involved in that particular space. And you might think that it's somewhat constrained, but when we look at the larger problem of aggressive activity, and we start thinking about the supply chains or some of our own customers in that particular region, it's really important that we're aware of what types of attacks are occurring, what domain infrastructure has been spun up by what adversarial attacker, and what industry verticals they typically go after. So that can give a business that is in those particular industry verticals an advantage in that they're seeing stuff already that's relevant to their industry vertical.
It's great. And then talk a little bit more about what Cyjax does, because it's definitely more than just kind of threat feed data, right?
It is. So we do a lot of what you would call the traditional threat intelligence. We're grabbing information from honeypot networks. We're grabbing public information. We're also doing our own reverse malware engineering of campaigns, including issuing takedown notices. And out of that threat intelligence comes a certain degree of confidence in the decisions that the team is making. So as example, if we see a newly created infrastructure on some of the known nasty providers with, a free certificate that's out of a geographic region that a particular company operates in as part of a phishing campaign or smishing campaign, we'll immediately get that threat intel out and consider it validated, and certainly watch for follow-on attacks. Our guys are really working hard to figure out if it's for real or if it's not for real. And so a lot of work goes into taking and finding that signal within the noise. And by noise, I mean the background sort of bot activity and traditional scanning that you see coming out of a lot of networks all over the place. We do work in breach notification, scouring both the dark web and the traditional data breach sources that are out there, like have I been pwned? And of course, I think the big one that a lot of customers are coming to this now, especially in a post-breach scenario, is do I have exposure on the dark web? Is my stuff for sale?
Makes sense. And then from a threat intelligence perspective, maybe dig a little bit deeper to what you all are doing there.
Yeah, so we've really become sort of, in a way, a one-stop shop, similar to the way you're operating with making sure that you're aggregating data feeds, both public and private ones, into your dashboard. We're going a step further as almost like an outsourced arm to a lot of companies that don't really know how to get the value from cyber threat intelligence, or maybe they're not at that level. And so we're doing a lot of stuff around, social media intelligence as part of a brand protection strategy, flagging up domains that match a particular big customer and letting them know that, we suspect that this can be used for a phishing campaign or a credential stealing campaign. We see a lot of vulnerability exposure monitoring, within literally minutes. And I'm super proud of the team for doing this. On a weekend, we were on top of the Cyjax ransomware attack, having reversed the JSON package that was publicly displayed, and getting all of the IOCs for the command and control domains. I think it was close to over 1,000 C2 domains for the Cyjax ransomware attack into the hands of our customers quickly. And that intel we felt was so dire that we publicly shared it on the CompTIA IASO forum. Training and simulation is part of it too. We like to set up scenarios for our customers to understand where the value of proactive intelligence can really lead them. And, one of the sad realities is if the organization hasn't adopted automation in terms of defending the network, a lot of times when you put in a change request to the firewall team or the networking team, it may not happen for a while. And we're seeing a tempo of cyber attacks that is measured in hours now, from the creation of the infrastructure to the attack itself to the pulling down of the infrastructure can sometimes happen in less than a day. And so, we're living in a world now where we are only as good as the infrastructure provider's response. So in a lot of cases, when we send out a domain or an IP address, we're actively watching to see when it comes offline, and we'll then flag it as previously used. And so staying on top of this very dynamic infrastructure is one of our key specialties.
And that's critical, right? I mean, it goes back to key with threat intelligence, right? The data is constantly changing. An IP that's malicious now might be benign, in a few minutes, and the kind of speed of that, as well as the automation, as you mentioned earlier, is critical.
Yeah. And another area that we're sort of exploring, just as a side note, is we're going to start looking at the mobile threat landscape, because there are some cybercrime crews that we're aware of that are just targeting the mobile space. And so threat intel on the mobile space is, I think, an area that we're going to move into and provide more telemetry and more data related to that. So yeah, this is a great sort of infographic, if you were, about how threat intelligence really then goes into Cyjax integration partners like Bandura to really drive that automated response. Because the less time you spend exposed to these attacks, obviously the safer you're going to be. And you can have confidence that on the back end of it, we're active in trying to figure out, are they going to pivot? Are they going to rebrand? Are they going to go from using one host provider to a different hosting provider? Or do they just use somebody else's compromised infrastructure? In post-breach work, a lot of what we've been doing is really around incident response, trying to figure out, what is the level of exposure, how much information is really out there. With today's revelations of the Accenture breach, the cyber criminals are claiming that they got a huge haul of data, but there's been no tangible proof offered of that data. So there's a lot of sort of like deep analysis going on and questions and trying to respond, I think, accurately to the stories of the day, because ultimately those stories of the day will get tagged with IOCs, especially like the Microsoft print spooler vulnerabilities, which have been really talked up. But when you really think about it, it's a local privileged access issue. So, in terms of a huge threat, let's not burn the house down with that one.
Right. And then one of the big areas of focus and question we get from a lot of our customers, right, given all the threat intel data we provide, right, it's like, how are folks different? So if somebody asks you, says, Ian, what makes Cyjax's cyber intelligence data unique? If you could kind of talk to that.
Sure. Well, I tend to think of us as sort of like a fine vintage whiskey that has a lot of analysis and validation to it. So when we call something bad, we're prepared to stand behind it and say it's bad, and it's bad for these reasons. And so, we've got a vast database of threat actor, TTPs, mapped to MITRE attack, mapped to the MITRE attack framework. So that really, I think, makes us a bit different in that we're not really interested in sort of the noise of all of the scanning bots and things like that. We're actually very interested in attacks. We're interested in seeing IP addresses that hit an SSH port and then hit a web services port and then hit a high port, obviously indicating that they're looking for some sort of backdoor into the system or some sort of router vulnerability. That to me is a high fidelity IP address or domain where that attack is originating from. And so there's that one step extra that we do to validate those that information and get it into the hands of the defenders. And I think, the other piece of it is, just by seeing the infrastructure and the domains that are being registered and some of the actors behind those domain registrations gives us a leg up on calling out what particular threat actor group we think might be involved. Knowing that, we kind of know what's going to happen next. Maybe this crew, all they do is look for RDP ports to brute force their way into, right? Maybe a different crew is really starting to go down the road of phishing emails or, account credential compromise. So we'll be able to give the defenders a little bit of the assurance that what we're trying to provide them with is pretty accurate to what we suspect is going to happen should, their defenses fail.
Great. And then talk a little bit about how you acquire data and kind of some of the analytics you use there to kind of come out with the actionable intel.
Yeah, that funnel is probably one of the best infographics. A huge shout out to Sophie for putting it together, of sort of understanding all of the data acquisitions. So obviously, like most of the companies that Bandura integrates, we have the public data source feeds. We do quite a bit of stuff on the dark web for clients. And then, certainly we look at what is being pushed out on social media accounts and, also what is being advertised on the dark web in terms of like infrastructure for sale, access for sale, that kind of thing. I think really when we look at the transformation process, we're really doing a little bit more than just sort of like a few checks and then flinging it out there. We pride ourselves on being very accurate and having the data to back up our calls on the issues. So, although we see providers like OVH hosting and cheap names out there, you can't always point at them and say, oh yeah, it's going to be cybercrime. So we go a few steps forward in that process to see, are we seeing those type of attacks on some of the honeypot networks like Shadow Server? Are we seeing those type of attacks on our own infrastructure? And what's really interesting to me is that we see stuff on our honeypot networks that we've deployed in one hosting provider's network globally that don't show up on things like VirusTotal, that don't seem to show up on any of the public feeds. So, I find it kind of interesting that, no matter who you are in the marketplace, no one is getting a complete slice of that aggressor pie.
Got it. And then as far as kind of offerings, talk about what we have on the cyber intelligence marketplace as far as the validated feed, and then we could turn to kind of the broader array of offerings that you have.
Yeah, as we follow the sun, the Russians and other aggressor nations, we're a little bit closer here to the action in a sense. So when we start seeing global campaigns unleashed, we're a little bit earlier in our day for customers of Bandura that are located in the United States. So we've got like a physical advantage in seeing stuff a bit early and being able to make that call as to whether or not it's malicious or those domains are newly created infrastructure for campaigns. I think too that because of that, we give a bit of an advantage on being actionable, timely, and accuracy. And that translates into an advantage when you adopt an automation platform like Bandura, because you can actually be protecting against stuff that hasn't even made its way over to your infrastructure. And that can give you a huge advantage. And I like to say that if you sort of combine the two and as an intelligence, a cyber threat intelligence team, what you can do is tell your own story of success. You can talk about how you were ready for these attacks because of the intel that you got that gave you an advantage. And we're not talking about intel that, is days in advance. This is not, looking through your binoculars and seeing an army on the border of your country going, gee, I wonder whether or not they're going to attack in a week, right? This is stuff that is happening dynamically, hour to hour, day to day. It changes. And organizations, especially ones that are in our particular industry verticals, finance, banking, pharmacy, and public service stuff, have to be ready for these kind of attacks. So we think we've got a bit of an advantage, and time seems to be really important in terms of getting your defenses ready.
And then one other thing is, from our perspective, right, we're pulling in a threat feed from Cyjax. Yeah. But as you mentioned numerous times, right, there's other kind of services you're providing. And so to the degree, again, Bandura customers are interested in looking at those services, you can absolutely reach out. So why don't you talk about some of the other things you can provide our customers?
Yeah, so we have some customers in the United States, and including enterprise and MSPs. And what we're finding there is they're consuming a lot of our regular kind of intelligence. It's everything from, what does the threat landscape look like? Can you follow a specific event? We have several customers interested in any data dumps from Accenture because everybody's nervous about that. But again, I want to stress we haven't seen anything yet. We've seen a threat, but we haven't seen any sort of disclosures. I think probably one of the big ones that a lot of people are looking at is dark web intelligence on whether or not they've had some exposure, or if somebody's selling access through a dark web access broker. That seems to be the really big one. But when you sign up an enterprise, there's no enterprise company that looks exactly the same. What we're seeing is really building a tailored solution for those customers, and making sure that those customers, that we're covering the basis that they want us to cover. I think in this day and age, the more accurate, more importance you place on the collection plan for your intelligence will yield you more actionable results. So again, as the CISO or the cyber threat intelligence department head, if you're so blessed with having a department instead of one very overworked analyst, the idea here is to be able to say to them, we got some credible intelligence that a phishing campaign that was targeting our bank is coming, and we can head it off at the pass. And some organizations go so far as to warn their customers directly with the intelligence that we've provided.
That's great. And then what types of threats will Cyjax Cyber Intelligence protect customers from?
Yeah, no, so we're seeing infrastructure and domains used for pretty much all sorts of different types of attacks that are out there. So it's interesting because from just a pure operational perspective, if it's bad, you want to block inbound and outbound communication to it. And if you're so lucky, you can also have alerting set up, I believe with Bandura, to tell you if something that is on a blocked list, it has been detected. So it really kind of evolving into threat hunting capability as well. But because we know that the cyber criminals infrastructure is being used to conduct all of these types of attacks, from ransomware to fraud to intellectual property loss, etc. We know that the battleground for this type of stuff is really at the infrastructure network layer, and we can also help construct some geo IP blocking opportunities where we see a particular ASN, and there are a few of them, where the majority of information that's coming out of those domains is just hostile, right? There seems to be no business value from accepting traffic from some hosting provider in Moldova, for instance.
Yeah. And then what are you seeing from like an interesting attack threat trend at the moment?
So it's I think the big ones, of course, have been the Kaseya attack and the APT28 attack on SolarWinds and all of the things that this led to. And so we're on the lookout to see campaigns that are targeting that particular supply chain, the type of companies that everyone sort of relies on, but no one knows that they're there. But I think the big thing that we've seen pivoting, and in a way, this is a celebratory moment in that our email phishing capabilities, either if you're under Gmail business or Office 365, or you've gone to a third party to block hostile email, I think we're getting better at that. I'm not going to say we're perfect at it, but where we're seeing the big attacks coming now is against infrastructure. So exposed services, be it RDP, Outlook Web Access, Pulse Secure VPN, things like that, that if we can tell you the attacking domains, the attacking IP addresses, you can buy time for your vulnerability management team to patch that. And let's be clear, like, buying time is what this game is about right now, because where we're at is that vulnerability management in enterprise is difficult. A lot of people think, oh, let's just patch the boxes. It don't work like that. In some cases, you have to update client side before you can update the actual VPN concentrator that you have the particular vulnerability on. So all of a sudden, you're left with that terrible feeling of, man, I've got exposure, and that exposure might be a month long, especially if you're in the midst of, closing down a year end or something like that, and there can't be any disruption to critical systems. And unfortunately, we lived for almost 2 years of not being able to have people in the office. So everybody was working remotely, and they were working offset hours too, because of maybe family or education. So really, when I look at the value of buying time for an organization with a good, solid threat intelligence feed, you're going to give everybody else a chance to catch their breath and not plunge into the crisis right away. So that's really what I think, the new attacks are looking like, infrastructure-based attacks. And really what we want to do there is try and block the bad guys and give our team time to fix that.
Great points. A lot of good information there from Ian on Cyjax. And now I want to turn to how you can access Cyjax on Cyber Intelligence Marketplace. So as I mentioned, Marketplace is accessible via Global Management Center. You can see on the left menu side, the Marketplace item with a nice new badge that's there to highlight that. You're going to go in there and you're going to see Cyjax up there on the upper right. Click on Cyjax. You're going to then go and get some more information and details around what Cyjax is offering, as well as the subscription price. The price you see there is prorated based on your subscription. So as everybody knows, our subscriptions are based on protected throughput, and you're going to get kind of a prorated price there. So if you're on an annual subscription and you have 9 months left, you'll see a 9-month price. If you're on a multi-year, 3-year, and you have 2 years left, you'll see a 2-year price. You'd click purchase, then you're going to go to the next screen here. You'll see kind of what that prorated amount is again, what the annual subscription cost for Cyjax is, information on the throughput and your subscription end date, and then the terms and conditions, which you'll read and click on and press purchase. And then based off of that, you're going to be off and running. The Cyjax threat feed will start downloading, and you'll be using it in no time. So Cyber Intelligence Marketplace, we've made it, again, very, very easy for you to go find great threat intelligence like from Cyjax and to be able to purchase it and then quickly deploy it on your network to take action with it. So to sum up, look, I think kind of Ian, and one of the reasons we're excited to partner with Cyjax is Ian and Kevin and the team over there. It's like there's a lot of great synergies, right? And defending against the threats today, it's a volume game. And that means you need cyber intelligence, but you also need automation. Ian talked a lot about how quickly things change, how quickly that infrastructure is changing, how quickly something is bad today and then gets taken down. So this cyber intelligence is constantly changing, and kind of using automation is critical to keeping up with that. At Bandura, we're really focused on allowing our customers to easily access, deploy, and enforce using massive volumes of cyber intelligence from multiple sources. And we think Marketplace is a great mechanism to give our customers more choice to very high quality data. And I think as we saw today, Cyjax is a great provider. And not only are they offering valuable threat intelligence data, but they also have a broad array of services that they're providing to customers. And so, if you're interested in kind of exploring that, feel free to reach out to anybody at Bandura. We can put you in touch with Ian and the team over at Cyjax. So with that, again, if there's questions, there's a Q&A box. A button you can click at the bottom of Zoom, and we're happy to take those questions. Ian, I'll kick off with a question or two. First, another kind of popular topic question we always get is false positives, right? And I think, look, the reality is with threat intel data, you're going to have a false positive from time to time. But folks are really interested in kind of what data providers do to mitigate that risk and to manage kind of the false positive potential.
Yeah, so a lot of it has to do now with a detailed whitelisting of known good, right? So nobody can upload word.exe to VirusTotal and then have every virus application in the world start blocking word.exe. We've moved as an industry quite a bit further along on that particular aspect of controlling false positives. They are a reality. We want your feedback, of course, through Bandura or directly to us if you're seeing some stuff. But a lot of large companies depend on us to be accurate to the point where our data is getting consumed at the executive level in a lot of cases. So all I'm going to say is we're pretty dedicated to getting it right. If we don't, we'll figure out what went wrong and we'll fix it. And I think that's really having an open, transparent dialogue about that, of where it came from, why it was there. I mean, everybody will get hoodwinked by actors that claim one thing out there, which turns out to be a false positive. Nobody wants to accidentally shut down access to Amazon. We'll wait for Amazon to do that on their own with an expired certificate or something. So, it's reality of the industry. We do our level best to get you as accurate data as we can.
Great. We did get a question here, and I think it's, we can both answer this from both our respective sides. So the question is tech support 24/7 or during office hours? From the Bandura side, we have 2 subscriptions. Our essential subscription has a business office hour support, 8x5. Our enterprise subscription has 24/7 support. So so we offer both options. It just depends on the subscription you have, which one you get. Ian, what about on your side?
Yeah, we've got a watch. I would say a 24/7, 365 watch function for the company. Generally, the inquiries that we get are coming in during daylight hours. But in a global emergency situation, the phones will be ringing off the hook, and we'll be bringing in people. So I'd say we have a scalable approach to that particular issue. I mean, with Bandura and us, we're going to have a very clear line of communication. So if there's something you're seeing in your Bandura console that you're not happy with, or something stops, Bandura's got express access to everyone, including the CEO, to fix it.
Great. And then one last question relates to, as you look down the future of the threat intel data you all are offering, what kind of innovation do you see? What kind of, if you look like a year or so from now, what new angles are we going to be looking at?
Yeah, I think the biggest evolutionary trend I'm going to see is DevSecOps will become intelligence led. They're going to turn into threat hunters, and platforms like Bandura that are protecting the network are also really easily leveraged into a threat hunting IOC exercise, especially when you get one of those detections of something that the campaign has been running for a little while. And then you can say, okay, this is a problem that we now need to start hunting down and looking for within our network. So I think the next evolution I see in terms of automation is not only protecting you in real time with threat intelligence, but looking at it retroactively and seeing, looking back into the past, seeing that, hey, we've seen this particular file in ongoing campaigns. We've now seen it on the inside of your particular network. You need to figure out what's happened here. So I see that as being a big one. The other big one I see is companies are going to be consuming strategic level, like geopolitical intelligence, to find out how much is going to impact their supply chain or their existing customers in that particular locale. Like right now, a terrible place to try to move into would be Malaysia in terms of a marketplace, right? Because of the political situation there. Other countries pass regulations that make it more difficult to do business in those particular countries, especially if your business is, software development or other types of activity. So I think what we're going to see is cyber threat intelligence become pure play threat intelligence with all of these different components and all of these applications. It's a great time to start building capability because I think it's going to evolve at a rapid pace.
That's great. So look, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. Ian, special thanks to you. It's been great to work with you on this. Look forward to kind of continued kind of efforts going forward. Cyjax, a lot of great stuff there. For more information on Bandura, Cyjax, you can visit banduracyber.com, cyjax.com. On the Bandura site, you can go to our integrations page. So just go to banduracyber.com, click integrations, click commercial. You'll see Cyjax there, more information there. And then we'll be publishing a blog there later today with more information on Cyjax. And then Ian and the team did also a great job of publishing another blog related to IOCs kind of a guest blog. So look for something there over the next week or so on banduracyber.com. So with that, again, thanks to everybody for joining us. Ian, thanks. It was a pleasure. And hope everybody has a great rest of their evening, afternoon, and day.